Hello and welcome to the Bigger Pixel. My name is Advent, and today we're taking a look at Tom Clancy's The Division. Now, hopefully by the end of this video we'll have answered whether or not you think you should buy this game. I know my choice, but we're here to help you decide whether or not The Division is a good choice for you. Now, right off the bat, you can notice that The Division is actually quite pretty. There's a lot of reflections going on here. You know, you got the birds flying around, all that. But let's take a look at the settings real quick and show you exactly what the Division offers. Now, you have your basic video settings. You can choose between your main monitor or a side monitor if you have multiple monitors. And you can, of course, turn up the resolution quite high and set the refresh rate up to 120 Hertz. I don't have a 120 Hertz monitor. You can also change the settings quite a bit. VSync mode defaults to auto for some reason. I've never seen that before, and it's actually quite annoying. It seems to decide to choose one of the two and stick with it just to annoy the hell out of you. But moving on there, we have contact shadows, post FXAA, which I have off because my graphics card can't handle it. Temporal AA, which is set super sampling for me. And of course we have a number of other settings which are quite nice to have, to include anisotropic filtering and parallax mapping. You can, of course, you can't actually set your field of view. It is a third-person game, so it shouldn't give too much of a problem to people who have motion sickness from playing games. And another thing I should mention for the settings is that your microphone is defaulted to on, so if you don't want to talk to people, make sure to turn that off if you have a microphone. Now, let's walk around the world that the Division offers and give this guy a medkit because he's asking for it for some free experience and, of course, some sneakers. So, the Division primarily consists of gameplay involving missions, encounter, side missions, and the Dark Zone. The Dark Zone is the place where you'll see most players. You don't actually see any players unless you are in a safe house or in the Dark Zone. The way this game works, it's always online, but you won't see other players unless they're in your own party or you're in either the safe house or the Dark Zone, in which you'll see any players that are there at that time. Now, because it is an always online game, that means you will have to have an internet connection in order to play, and you will have to create an Ubisoft account in order to log in to the Division, even just to check on your character. So, if you don't have an internet connection, obviously this game is not for you. And I'm actually not used to playing with the keyboard, so I'm going to switch to the controller here. One nice thing about this game is that you can dynamically switch between the keyboard or the controller, giving you full access to the game at any given time. You can accidentally drop your controller and switch straight to the keyboard just because, you know, maybe your cat walked across the keyboard and messed everything up. But as far as gameplay is concerned, solo, you'll be doing a lot of walking around and shooting at enemies. Your multiplayer aspect comes into mostly joining friends or matchmaking. And the way matchmaking works in this game, you can simply go into group management and search for other players in your region. As you can see, this is the map of New York here, at least Manhattan, and you can select a safe house and matchmake in that area, and it'll search for other players in that zone for what you're searching for, either a mission, just roaming around, or the Dark Zone. And we'll get to the Dark Zone in just a moment, but there are various missions and encounters throughout the world, and that is where your gameplay lies. The missions are very distinct. They each have their own sort of feel to them, and that is important because the missions actually come into play in the end game. But the encounters and even the side missions all feel roughly the same. In fact, there's probably only about 9 different encounter types, and you'll repeat those throughout the game in order to level up and to gain what is known as points towards a specific part of your base, which you will be working to upgrade by the end of the game so that hopefully you have all the skills unlocked. Now, each player is able to unlock every single skill in the game. As you can see, I have mods available for my skills. You gain those from doing various missions and unlocking things, and you also you have the ability to equip 2 skills at a time and 1 ultimate skill. Now, your skills, the effectiveness of them is determined by a statistic on your character known as his electronics skill. You have stamina, firearms, electronics, as you can see there, and your armor provides all of that. So a lot of the RPG aspects in this game come from just gathering armor in order to boost stats, which is much like how Destiny did things as far as boosting stats. Because it is a shooter, it would be very hard to make it an RPG in any other fashion. You also have talents in the game, which are sort of passives, which activate based on doing certain things. As you can see, this one says damage multiple hostiles with an explosion to apply 40% more damage from the blast. So that is quite nice for, typically if you throw a lot of grenades, you can use that talent and it'll activate on its own. Of course, that means you'll also have to remember that that talent is one that you picked, otherwise you'll end up wasting it, and that can be quite annoying. So, you also have perks. Perks are all completely passive. They basically affect your end game in that you have to unlock the medical wing, the tech wing of your main base in order to be able to carry more items out of the dark zone in order to enter contaminated areas, which hopefully I will get to showing you at some point during this video. And if I don't, feel free to slap me across the internet. So, let me invite my buddy here, Noctis, and hopefully he'll join us. And we'll
maybe
go straight into the dark zone here and show you a bit of what you can expect out of the game. Now, the multiplayer in this game, inviting someone or them joining you, if you're the party leader, they will spawn in directly on top of you, unless you are in the dark zone, the PvP zone. So, at any time, someone can pop in or pop out of your game, which is quite nice for people who are always busy. And if they only have an hour to play, they don't want to have to go halfway across the world to meet up with you, they can just join your game and they'll be right there with you. In fact, they'll also see quests that you have available to you, and only quests you have available to you, and they won't be able to see any of their own quests. So if they haven't done something yet, they won't be able to see it. As you can see, our buddy joined us, and he's teleporting to us. There he is. Let's give him a good old slap as we enter the dark zone here. Now, the dark zone, when the game released, was not quite satisfying, because it's the main core of the PvP in this game, and yet people did not PvP due to a balancing issue with the game. I waited to review this game for that very reason, and now that they have fixed it, and Noctis is of course looking at the vendor, I can show you the game to its full extent. The Dark Zone is broken up by level, so now that I'm max level 30, I'm only in with other level 30s. You can see that there are also NPCs in the Dark Zone, so you will be fighting them as you run around, and you will of course fight other players. Now, we could betray this player here, but I don't think that's to our advantage. Let's just help him clear out this zone. Maybe we'll get a bit of loot to extract. Now, dark zone loot can only be extracted, and in order to send it to your stash and gain access to it. If you don't extract it at one of these extraction sites, you won't be able to get the loot out of the dark zone. So you can't just walk out of the dark zone with a bunch of loot. You'll have to extract it by helicopter at a designated point. And that creates an element in the game in which other players can sort of figure out where you're going. If they want to go PvP, they can figure out where you are, steal your loot by killing you, and gain some money in the process potentially if they survive having done that. And I'm going to follow Noctis here because he's hot on the tail of some NPC apparently. Hopefully this screen tearing that I'm seeing is not crossing over into the video, because that would be unfortunate. So there's a lot of little elements to the Division. As you run around, you can pop tires on cars. Currently not that car, but you can pop tires on cars. You can shoot out windows, shoot through windows, and it's the little things that count in the Division. You know, little details that make the game seem just all that much better. You know, enemies being staggered, their specific stance based on what kind of enemy they are. You know, these guys, they're known as riders, the ones that we're killing right now, and they have sort of a thuggish stance. Whereas later on you'll fight these PMCs, private military company people, and they will have a more militaristic stance. So your enemies vary in their style, their way of combating you, and in fact their AI gets better over time, which is actually really helpful to the gameplay. Originally I felt the gameplay suffered quite a lot because of the AI, but once you get to level 30 the AI gets ramped up and they actually end up... Alright, well I guess we're going after a rogue. They actually end up being smart enough where they will kill you. Now mind you, they are bullet sponges later on in the game, but at least they're not running around slaughtering you in the process. They have an AI which sort of makes them advance towards you, and yet you won't be able to kill them right away, and they'll just sort of back off a little bit. Now, Noctis, if we can get this rogue, that'd be great, but we do need to hurry along here because we need to get to some other content. These pyrotechnic dudes exploding. I'm gonna set away. Alright, so we skipped ahead a bit because we were hunting down some rogue players, and that is where the PvP comes in. So,
God.
Oh man, these guys look deadly. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, I'm down.
A rogue agent has been neutralized.
Ah! Got him! You better survive!
Agent on your team is
better
down.
fucking survive.
Requires assistance.
I'm making my way there.
Oh man. Alright. Trying to concentrate here and talk about the game, but also fight these guys.
I'm coming.
This is gonna be dangerous. Oh my gosh.
We got plenty of medkits. Your axes. You down?
Nope, I'm not down. You can't hear Noctis right now, but he's not giving encouraging words. Oh, no, I died. Yeah, fighting 3
One sec,
rogues,
I'll put pulse on
not
and I'll just
ideal.
run in.
So, I'm gonna go to the checkpoint, and I'm gonna get out of the dark zone. No, you're not gonna fight them by yourself. You can't hear him right now, but he is very ecstatic to fight these people. But we need to get on with the game here and show you what else the Division has to offer as I leave the dark zone here. So, let's see. What do we have to do? We are in the wrong place. Let's go to this safe house, which you can fast travel to safe houses quite easily. It'll just load the area there and give some tips on the screen. Oh, fuck. So I wanted to quickly talk about the guns that are available in the game. Since it is a third-person shooter, you won't really feel too much in the way of recoil, but gun variety definitely has something to do with the core gameplay, since you'll be taking cover behind objects and shooting quite rapidly and then taking cover again. So let's just show you the 5 different weapon types. You have SMGs, you have your assault rifles, LMGs, DMRs, and shotguns. I have 1 of each. Only 1 of them is not modded. So we're going to start here with the SMG at the good old gun range in the hub. It says starting in a couple seconds there. I don't really give a damn about it. But as you can see, the reticle is a circle, and it'll actually change based on what you're shooting. And each weapon has 4 primary stats. You have your accuracy, your base recoil, and your stability, and one other that I can't remember right now, but I can quickly look up. Accuracy, reload speed, range, and stability. Those are your primary stats. And depending on what weapon you have, depends on, what you're going to get out of it. Your shotgun has the lowest range, so its effective range, in fact, the range at which it will do decent damage, is actually quite low. When I shoot an object farther away, it does a little bit less damage than it would to an object that is up close. You see it's only doing about 900 there, but it did almost 3,000 to the object I shot quite close. So shotguns are limited in how much damage they do based on the range that you are shooting from. And we're going to skip on ahead to the assault rifle here. The assault rifle and the LMG actually are quite similar. The assault rifle, though, seems to do burst damage. You have a lot of recoil, and your weapons tend to fire quite quickly. Of course, there's varying types of assault rifles, so you'll be able to pick from which one you like. The LMGs fire somewhat slow and get more accurate the more you fire them. When you begin to fire them, the reticle's usually quite large, and the more you fire them, the more accurate they get. Of course, they bounce around a whole lot in order to compensate for the amount of damage that they're doing. LMGs also have the added bonus of being able to what is known as suppress an enemy, which will force them to take cover, and it'll do that quite rapidly. And then, of course, you have your DMRs, which are your sniper rifles. There are multiple types of DMRs. You have semi-auto and bolt DMRs, which will affect your rate of fire. DMRs do more damage, just like any other weapon, by shooting at the head, but they seem to do almost triple the damage sometimes shooting at enemies in the head. And that about wraps up the various types of weapons. As far as weapon mods are concerned, each weapon has varying slots, but typically you have about 4 you can equip. You have your muzzle brake, your underbarrel, your magazine, and your optic, and each one will affect a certain statistic about the gun. Like this one adds accuracy and critical. Some of them will lower your threat, making it less likely that an enemy will shoot at you. A lot of these magazine mods increase reload speed or crit damage or accuracy in some cases. So you have a variety to choose from, and it's all to improve your weapon ideally. And then of course you can put a weapon paint on, which I don't really have any to put on this good old submachine gun. So we'll get right back to the gameplay here in just a second.
You left.
Yeah, I left.
You are now entering
So,
the safe area.
So now that I'm at this other safe house, you can mark various encounters and stuff on the map. And the map will draw a waypoint to that stuff there. Of course, the mini-map actually in the game in some areas is messed up. As you can see in the upper left there, it's supposed to highlight yellow the areas where you can walk, but the highlighting isn't quite right. You're walking in the black sometimes, which is a little funky, but that's only a minor issue. And as we run through New York, which you will do a lot in the Division, there isn't a whole lot going on until you run into an enemy, which they did improve with an initial patch, making it so there's more random encounters with just various enemies throughout the area. But our objective here is to just clear the checkpoint of hostiles, and it'll probably be to hold the position afterwards. Right now we're fighting what are known as the PMCs. They're the late game enemy of the Division. And hopefully we won't get our world rocked. I think the odds are pretty good. Of course, I didn't pick up any med kits or anything before I left, but I don't think we'll need them. Melee that guy. Try and shoot him in the head. Succeed. And rejoice. So, as I thought, this is the mission where you signal for the JTF to arrive and just hold your ground until they do. And you'll probably do this mission, I don't know, 10 times throughout the game. And it really doesn't get very challenging when you have more and more players. The more and more players you have, the faster it'll go, and the far less challenging it'll be. Alone, of course, it's a little challenging, but as you can see, I'm level 30, they're level 30, and I'm not really having much of a problem here.
Warning, hostile forces approaching.
And the spawn locations usually vary, so let's look around a bit. So apparently that encounter I chose was messed up, but we sort of completed it. And Noctis came just in time to help us defend the area. So we're going to jump right to it and show you the end game and what basically the majority of your missions in the game will consist of. Now, you'll have daily activities at the end of the game once you reach level 30 be unlocked. And
it's the consulate.
As you can see, it's these 3 little flashing missions here. Each one of these missions, the symbol actually means something as far as unlocking certain things in the hub, or rather your base of operations. And let's go ahead and do Lexington Event Center.
Agent.
Oh, let's do the
because
consulate.
Let him go. He didn't do anything to you.
we don't want to show you the end of the game just yet.
That's right.
Oh,
He
that's
didn't.
right, yeah.
But I sure saw him do something to him.
So let's see. Let's show you the matchmaking. You can go into any mission or any safe zone and activate matchmaking while on the map. And as you can see, I can just click here and matchmake, but I already had 2 people join. And we now have Dark Out and Fan Tab in our game. And they can teleport right to us. We already have Dark Out here. Hopefully Fan Tab will show up. But primarily, your endgame consists of these dailies and the PvP, which we were trying to show you earlier, and failed so successfully at. Way to engage the enemy there. Now, in the endgame, all of the enemies are giant bullet sponges and can also deal massive amounts of damage. They're all super elites, and as a result, it can make any mission take anywhere between 20 minutes to a full hour or more based on the type of gear you have and the skill that your group has. You know, if your group doesn't work well together, you won't be able to complete a mission very quickly. We're actually doing this a lot faster than I've done it before because our makeup is somewhat decent. Of course, Dark Owl is a scrub. Just revive him there. And hopefully try not to die to this guy. Mission success.
Yeah,
so, your missions also are your primary story in the game. And the story is not all that enticing. It's about as bland as, well, bran muffins. But it's something, you know. It's not the worst story I've ever had in a game, but it's not the best. By far, it's not the best. And if I can form a complete sentence while shooting these guys in the face, I will tell you more. Roll away from that grenade. Oh yeah, there's rolling in the game. Which, by the way, the tutorials in the game are awful. They never even mentioned rolling was a possibility. Or at least if they did, I didn't know because the tutorials were all text. Except for the initial tutorial, which taught you how to shoot. That's about all they taught you how to do, actively. How to shoot and take cover. Which is god-awful for a tutorial. I think I complained probably about 16 times in the Let's Plays we did about the tutorial. And is well deserved because, like, they didn't even mention that you can put mods on your weapons, which severely affect how your weapon plays out, until probably about the third mission into the game, which is, it's not that far into the game, but mind you, by about that time you should be at least level 8. And you've already accumulated these weapon mods, yet you will not have been using them if you had no idea how to equip them or anything. Which is really, really a disappointment. Now, this is Massive Entertainment's first MMO, so I'm not really, knowing that, I'm not really expecting a whole lot out of them. But they could have done better. You know, they have worked on some pretty great games like Assassin's Creed Revelations.
No.
And we're gonna have to pick up Noctis because it's scrub. Probably use an ability here, even things up.
Warning. Additional
But as
hostiles
far as
incoming.
MMOs go, I'm not so sure that Massive had the full mechanics down. And in fact, they relied a lot upon what the community was able to tell them as far as feedback. So they definitely benefited from the fact that they did an open beta and a closed beta for this game. But was it enough to make the game great? I don't think so. Since the end game of this game primarily consists of these daily activities, which, mind you, you will have already done these throughout the game. You already have done these missions. They'll just be harder. Throughout the game, you've already done these. And it's just, you're just doing the same thing over again. Now, that's typically what a daily activity is in most MMOs. But this, combined with their PvP experience, is not compelling. They really should have had a full arena, such as what Destiny had, before releasing the game, rather than what they plan to do, which is release it in DLC, which is absolutely awful as just a business concept. To release what is essentially your core gameplay as DLC is ridiculous to consider. But that's what they plan to do. It'd be nice to see if they release some sort of free content so that people can have PvP, which to me is what this game is all about.
So
Or,
the,
you know,
there are
provide
contents every, most of their months.
some better PvP content. Now, the Dark Zone
Indicate an echo nearby.
PvP content's alright, you know. People randomly go rogue and then you can go kill them without any consequence if you aren't rogue. And even if you are rogue, you can kill them without consequence. You know, whatever. Have fun. Go for it. And they do plan to release free content, but I would like to see an arena as free content. Even if it's just like one singular area in which you can queue up and fight other players. That is what I would like to see out of the Division. Because right now it's endgame. I don't feel that it's compelling enough to make you want to pay $60 for it.
So in April, free content is the
Agent, the hostage is being held on the roof. You need to clear it out.
If it was on sale, yes. If you waited till April when their free content comes out, releasing an endgame raid, I would say yes. Because right now there are really no raids. There's just this daily content where you're going up against bullet sponges. The challenge becomes a moot point when you've done it 1,000 times. Eventually, you just get so geared that it's not fun anymore. And that's honestly a problem that every MMO has. But as far as the Division's concerned, they did not have enough content as to compel me to want to pay the amount of money that I did. Which is none because I was gifted it. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the Division. Hopefully I covered enough. This has been the Bigger Pixel. My name is Advent. Noctis is down. Oh my god, we're surrounded. You can join us for more Fallout 4 content and gaming related content next week on the Bigger Pixel.